Hello, welcome to the 4thDown podcast show. We are your hosts for today, as always. My name is Alex,
My name is Mickey.
and we got a lot to talk about regarding to a very fun and exciting Week 17 around the NFL. Lots of big games, lots of upsets, and lots of shockers as we approach the final week. Oh, we got one more game tonight, but soon after tonight's big matchup, we have one more week of the regular season, and then guess what? It's the postseason already. We're already past 18 weeks of really good football, and we're excited about it. I don't know what do you think about this crazy season so far?
It's been a wild one, and as we're getting closer to the playoffs, I think this is going to be an exciting postseason, and I'm excited to see what happens there. But the race to get there has been fun to watch.
Yeah, and it's gonna be a challenge for sure. I think it's gonna be better than last year's postseason fiasco. Um, but we'll get right to it. As mentioned below, as you see on the picture below, today's topics are we'll be talking about the NFC heating up, pretty much the entire NFC playoff picture. Lots of changes around, but most importantly, the wild card teams. Um, Commanders out, eliminated. Seattle in for now, but Green Bay controls their own destiny, same as Detroit, but they need a Seattle loss. We'll talk about that. Winners or losers of Week 17. We'll each pick 2 winners, 2 losers. We'll discuss that. And a dark horse team to maybe not win a Super Bowl, maybe have a deep run in the playoffs. We'll get there in a second. But, yeah. Let's get started with the NFC playoff picture, and it's heating up. A lot of change over yesterday.
Yeah, and a lot of changes that could still come depending on what happens next week.
True, and as I'm reading off here, the NFC playoff standings. As of now, the Philadelphia Eagles take the number 1 seed with a 13-3 record, followed by the Niners at the 2 seed, Vikings 3. Both of them have a 12-4 record, but the Niners have the upper hand. The Bucks, they're not moving that spot. They're 4th seed with an 8-8 record. They clinched a playoff berth. And the wild card teams, Dallas 5. They could jump ahead to beat the Eagles. All depends on next week.
Yeah, Dallas still has the potential to win their division, but that's...
Not just win a division, but get the number 1 seed.
Yeah.
Giants, I think Giants are pretty much stuck there. They have nothing to play for. Interesting fact, which I'll probably get there in a sec, they're actually playing their starters against the Eagles instead of resting them. So I thought that was kind of interesting. Nice little momentum, and now here's where the fun begins. Seattle is currently the 7th seed, but if the Green Bay Packers win next week at home against a really good Detroit Lions team, they're in the playoffs. But if the Lions win and the Seahawks win, they're in the playoffs. But if the Lions win and Seattle loses, then the Lions are in the playoffs.
Yeah, so for the Lions to make the playoffs, they have to beat the Packers, and Seattle has to lose. But for the Packers to win, all they have to do
Is win.
is win.
And man, it's just been a crazy season. Who would have thought a few months back? Like, don't forget too, we're not just talking about the Packers. I heard a lot of Green Bay talk, but Detroit was 1-6. People forget about that. The Lions were 1-6. Green Bay was 4-8, and guess what? They're fighting for that last playoff spot, which that should be a really fun game.
Yeah, and let's not count out the 49ers with Brock Purdy and the Vikings who've clawed and scratched their way to win their division, and then we can talk about the Bucks, but that's just...
Yeah. But the most important thing about these NFC playoff picture right now is that final spot, but also that number 1 seed race just got a whole lot interesting.
Yeah, so you have the Eagles with 13-3, and then you have the Niners, the Vikings, and the Cowboys with a 12-4 record.
And who knows if Jalen Hurts is going to play? I'm assuming he's going to play because this is now an important game for the Eagles. Because a few weeks ago, like, Philadelphia will easily win 1 game. But now they're 1 loss away, and the Cowboys win from falling to the wild card.
Yeah, and let's talk about the Cowboys. How Dak had that injury early in the season, and people thought that they were done. And look at them now.
Yeah, they're 12-4. They're playing really good. My biggest curiosity from this whole thing is basically like how these playoff pictures will match up. Let's say for instance the Eagles beat the Giants. They get the 1 seed. Dallas they have 5, and let's say the Niners lose and the Vikings win. Vikings get the 2 seed. Niners get the 3 seed. The Giants and Niners and Cowboys and Bucks, and even Seattle, Green Bay.
Oh my.
I know there'll be a lot of great matchups. I don't know, but as you're looking at this playoff picture,
Yeah, any way it shakes out, these should be interesting games to watch. You know, who's ever in the 7th seed is going to go to the 2 seed, and that might be the Niners and it might be the Vikings.
if the Lions, Seahawks, and Packers go to the Vikings, or even the 49ers, I think one of these, I might make a bold prediction. I think a 7 seed will beat a 2 seed this year. It never happened before since they merged of the 7 seed. I think this is the year we're going to see a 7 seed beat a 2 seed.
If the 2 seed is the Vikings, I could see that happening.
Even in the Niners,
I think it depends on which team gets the 7th seed. Just because of the Niners defense.
True. But yeah, so it's definitely gonna be an interesting race with 1 week remaining for this NFC. I think it's more intriguing than the AFC playoff picture because the AFC are just figuring out who's the number 1 seed in Jacksonville and all that. This may be the worst. And a lot of people are saying like the NFC is garbage, but you look at these records. 4 teams are potentially maybe 5 are 10 wins and above, and 4 of them are 12 wins and plus. So, and Tom Brady, it may be, a really elite Lions team, good Geno Smith rival team, and Aaron Rodgers. So this NFC playoff picture is going to be crazy. Regardless of how many people say like the NFC is trash this year, which I mean, respectfully, was bad, but now this heating up.
I think maybe we judged it too quickly, and there's definitely a lot more competition in the AFC, but in the past few weeks, it's really emerged who's the top dog in the AFC, and the NFC is still fighting for that.
And we'll get to maybe predictions here in a sec, but I think one last topic we should talk about for the 7th seed. Who do you think has the best shot again, the 7th seed? Seattle, Detroit, Green Bay.
I don't know. I want to say the Packers, but the Lions have a very strong team, and they're going to fight. And if the Lions beat the Packers, the Seahawks have a good chance of making it in. Now, out of the 7th seed, out of those 3, who do I think has the best chance of making a deep run? It would probably be the Packers if they're playing the way they have been the past few weeks. However, I don't know how that's going to shake out.
Yeah, and I agree. And don't forget the Seahawks are playing a Rams team with Baker Mayfield, which he's kind of rejuvenated as a decent quarterback. So that's no gimme.
No.
So we'll see. So it's gonna be a fun playoff picture. We have with 1 week remaining. No sight of the remaining schedule, but we know a couple AFC teams are playing Saturday, so be on the lookout. And we might have a special treat Sunday. So, but yeah, that's the NFC playoff picture right now. A lot of competition. Let's get on with our winners losers of Week 17 as we switch subjects. There were mainly there were a lot of losers. And there weren't so many winners, in my opinion,
Well, this is the point in the season where you get to the point where you lose and you're done. And a lot of teams lost their chance this week.
But, not only, lost their chance, but, you expect teams like... I'm going to go right here. We'll start with my losers. I got the Jets and the Vikings. We'll start with the Jets. Big game for Mike White on the road against Seattle. Seattle's not looked their best. And even without Zach Wilson, I thought the Jets' offense was better with Mike White under center. But Mike White, and I get it, he's returning from an awful injury, but the Jets just they were prepared in a must-win game at Seattle, and they lost. And they didn't really show up. They just kicked 2 field goals, and it was bad. The Jets were so excited for him to come back in a game. But potentially an easy win, not an easy win, but a game they should have won. And they just failed to do that. So I think the Jets are one loser in my opinion. As we switch to the Vikings now, I say the Vikings are a loser because games like this where you know your divisional opponents one loss away from being eliminated from the playoffs, and you're a 12-3 team. You're playing against 7-8 teams. Most of the time, and I guess the NFL what happens, but most of the time, a 12-3 team should be able to beat the snot out of these 7-8 teams. And I get it. Like I said, NFL, anything can happen. But you're a 12-3 team. Prove to me that you're gonna be there with the top dogs. Like I said, with the NFC playoff picture, Eagles, Niners, and Cowboys, they're 12-3, 12-4. Hey, Vikings. Can you prove us? And the Vikings went to Lambeau. They didn't just lose. They got kicked. They got kicked in the butt. If the Vikings would have showed a little more fight, I probably would have had them. Maybe not as a loser, but that was embarrassing. If I'm a Vikings fan, like, are you gonna be one and done in the playoffs? This Vikings team has not been really good all season. They remind me of like the 2019 Packers or 2020 Steelers. They're better than what they were last year, but they're not to that next level yet.
I feel like the Vikings have some good talent on their team, and they rely a lot on Justin Jefferson and some other players. And when you have a defense that's able to contain them, they struggle really hard.
Right, and I want to get one last thing too. I'm not Kevin O'Connell done a terrific job, first year head coach. So like, if they lose the playoffs, it's not a. I mean, he's done a huge success, and I expect him to take that Vikings team to the next level next year. But right now, the Minnesota Vikings are in a danger of potentially being a one and done playoff team. You're either gonna play the Giants, or you can want a last second field goal. You're either gonna play the Seahawks, Lions, or Packers, which I think any of those teams could beat you. In fact, they did beat you. So we'll see. But those are my losers.
Yeah, so my losers are the Washington Commanders and the Panthers. The Panthers are obviously lost their division. The Bucks won. They gave up 20 points in the last quarter against the Bucks.
And Mike
Evans had a once in a lifetime kind of game.
200 yards, 3 touchdowns.
And when you have such high stakes again and you're playing, you can't give up points like that. And then the Commanders against the Browns, I didn't really know what to expect going into that game, but I thought it would be a little bit closer. There would be more of a fight.
Well, the main problem was they benched. Oh, sorry. The main problem is they benched Taylor Heineke.
Yeah, that definitely was a big blow for them. And even if Carson Wentz is the better quarterback, which I'd say they're probably about equal-ish, in the system you have, in the team you have, with the players you have, Taylor Heineke fits better, and people will play better for him.
Yeah, well, like when I saw they benched Taylor Heineke for Carson Wentz, I'm like, you're just giving playoff spots to the Lions and Packers. Carson Wentz was that dude, but ever since his injury, but like Taylor Heineke got him crucial wins, and they need like Ron Rivera fired. You can't just keep switching quarterbacks. Like, you knew Tyler Heineke. Like, yeah, he had a bad game against the Niners, but that was a Niners team, first of all. But second off, Tyler Heineke has brought you guys back on the map. The Washington football team, other than other than Alex Smith's injury, Gladys doing all right. Other than the Alex Smith season, the Washington Commanders have not been anything. A couple great Kirk Cousins, but yeah. So yeah.
No, every once in a while the Commanders have like that glimmer of hope, but it doesn't last very long.
No. All right, and from losers to winners, might be a shock to some people, but I think the Denver Broncos are a winner in my books because you're playing against on the road at the Chiefs, and you kept it a really close game. Russell Wilson, he had I think 3 touchdowns that game, and he had a couple mistakes too, but he's getting better and better too as it progressed. They hung in there with the Chiefs, battling for number 1 seed. So like, I thought the Broncos played great. I didn't think they were, especially after getting embarrassed on Christmas Day. So I think Wilson and the crew did a good job of containing that fight against the Chiefs. They won by 3. They lost the game, but I think the Broncos took a step in the right direction as we approached the final week, even though they're eliminated.
Yeah, I could see that. I mean, the Broncos are definitely taking steps to improve, and I think that's something we all want to see because no one wants to watch this team.
Yeah.
One of my winners I had was the Pittsburgh Steelers. For them to go into Baltimore, and it was a tight game, and it was a good game, and for them to take on that Ravens team, which has had some issues this season, but overall has been playing very well, and the Steelers are playing better than anyone had expected them to this season.
Yeah, can I pick it at 2 game winning drives last 2 weeks? Najee Harris popped off for 110 yards. And I get it, no Lamar Jackson, but, going to a division rival like Steeler Ravens is tough.
Well, and Tyler Huntley is really good too. So, it's not like it's different when you mix up the game at all, but it's not like they were playing against the backup of a backup of a backup.
Right. But yeah. My second winner are the Detroit Lions. After their crushing loss against the Panthers, which we'll see if that could come back and haunt them, but the Lions play great. They always play great this season, especially after going 1-6. They're finally 8-8. Dan Campbell's done a terrific job. A lot of people were calling for his head back in early November, and now the one went away. Jared Goff is playing really well. It's going to be really awkward for the draft because they might not need a quarterback. They might just stick with Jared Goff for a couple more years and let him develop.
And they have the Rams.
Yeah, and they have the Rams draft pick too. So, and if they don't need a guy in that 4th pick, they could potentially trade back and get a better haul for it. So, I like what Detroit's doing. I think Detroit actually might be, not only a playoff contender this season, but I think they actually might be a winner threat next season. I mean, we'll see what happens with the Packers next season. We'll see what happens to the Vikings, but watch out for the Lions next season. They could be a really good team, and maybe win their first division title in almost 30 years. So, well, those are my 2 winners. My 2 winners are Broncos, Lions. We'll get to your last winner.
So my 2 winners are the Steelers and the Packers, as much as it pains me to say that. I have to live with a Packers fan, so I have heard all season about how they've been doing. And I've watched all these games, and I've seen them progress over time, and just the way they played against the Vikings.
That was their best game.
That was by far their best game. And it was impressive, and the defense was impressive, and Keyshawn Nixon was amazing, and they played very well. I wish I would have seen more fight out of the Vikings, but I was very impressed with the defense.
But yeah, like the one thing too, the Packers finally got it right on all 3 cylinders. Yes, the special teams block punt. I'm like, oh crap. But after that, all 3 phases, offense played good, defense played great, better teams played great, and the Packers are rolling right now. And this could be a team that, hey, watch out, don't let us sneak in the big dance. So we'll see what happens. So that's a little recap. My winners are Broncos, Lions. My losers are Jets, Vikings. Her winners are Packers, Steelers, and her losers are Commanders and Panthers. As we switch over to our last topic of the day, a dark horse team that can make a deep run to playoffs or win a Super Bowl potentially. We pick one team from each. We'll pick one team. So, for me personally, I think a team that could potentially make a deep run are the Baltimore Ravens. I know it may seem like, I know a lot of people are going to be like, oh, they just lost to the Steelers, they're doing this and doing that. But they don't have Lamar Jackson. And they had a lot of players injured. Lamar Jackson should be back soon. It's been time for postseason. And if the Ravens do manage to keep that, because they're a 6 seed right now, they'll probably go to either Buffalo or Cincy. But I just like what the Ravens have been doing. I think the Ravens are a lot better team. What people were saying, they're actually my early Super Bowl AFC champion prediction. I made a prediction. I said Ravens Buccaneers. Funny how that's still alive. And I don't know. I just think the Ravens are a lot better team. They run the ball well. John Harbaugh is a great coach, and Lamar Jackson is a really good player, especially playing for a contract year. So I just like what the Ravens are doing. I think they're my sleeper team for the Super Bowl.
Well, my sleeper team, and I wouldn't bet on these guys to make it all the way to the Super Bowl, but I do think they could make it pretty deep in the playoffs, would be the New York Giants. I really like what they've done this year. They've definitely have had massive improvements, and the fact that they've made it into the playoffs is pretty impressive. And it'll be interesting to see who they end up playing, because we still don't know what the final playoff picture will look like. But I could see them making a deep run depending on how the numbers work out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm also going to be interested to see how they play against the Eagles.
That's true, because they are putting their starters. I think the Giants... Well, and I think... Because, again, you want to reach your starter for the playoff, but, like, they could potentially knock the Eagles down to a wild card. And also, if they beat the Eagles with potentially Jalen Hurts, that could prove, like, hey, this postseason is going to be wild.
Well, if they potentially have to play the Eagles again in the playoffs, they're going to want to do everything they can to prepare for that and to see how their team can face up against the Eagles.
Right. But, yeah, but potentially in the first round, I think the Giants are either going to play the Niners or the Vikings. It's going to be one of those two teams, definitely. I don't think they can play the Eagles or the Cowboys. I think it's going to be the Niners or the Vikings. They'll play for round one.
Yeah, I think it's definitely going to be either the Niners or the Vikings. And I don't know. That could be interesting.
Yeah, well, we have a lot to talk about. One more week to go. We will have a Week 18 special podcast this Friday, where we're just gonna talk about every game, every crucial game. That's gonna be the show. Just talk about every crucial game, break it down, and we might have a special podcast episode Sunday or Saturday night for Titans Jags, because that'll be a fun game. Should be a lot of fun. Be on the lookout. But yeah, I don't know what to expect from these playoffs. I think it'll be a lot better than last year's playoffs. It's gonna be a lot of fun. We have one more to go in the NFL season before chaos begins. But yeah, if you haven't already, please subscribe to the 4thDown podcast on YouTube. Follow us on Instagram and TikTok. Spotify's coming out very, very soon. We've been saying that for the past year now.
Very, very soon.
Very, very.
Deep quotation marks.
But yeah, so if you haven't already, please subscribe, follow us, support us, leave a comment. Leave a comment what you think about the podcast too. Let us know how we are doing. Let us know if you want to see any improvements. And again, we love you guys. Have a good rest of your day and a happy New Year too. So we'll see y'all later.